Hey there, Bidman. It's week 13 review and playoff preview. Some of you probably thought the videos were dead because I was really mad. But gonna do it. Gonna keep doing it throughout the rest of the year. Couple record reviews. Devin lost, so he still sits at 12 wins. So Devin needs to make the final to own the single season total win record. And Rich came up about 60 points short of setting the record for overall score. So no major records yet this year. Devin can still get one. Rich can't. Let's review the matchups. Let's pull the Band-Aid off. I lost mine. I benched Deshaun Watson. It was an idiotic move. Weeks ago, I got on Drew's case for changing from Lamar Jackson to Cam Newton, and then I did it even worse. I went out on waivers, got a guy who wasn't on my team, and started him over top of my stud quarterback. So that won't happen again. Anyway, Drew beat me by 17 points. So major players in this game for my team, the MVP is Derrick Henry. And then I had good days from Chris Carson, Melvin Gordon, and Darren Waller. Defense wasn't that great, but things happen. The biggest bum on my team, besides Nick Foles, was minus 5 points and got benched at halftime. Awesome job, Nick. Thanks for winning Philly that title. So he was the biggest bum in the history of the world. Brett Maher, Cowboys kicker, screwed me over for the second time this year. Got 16 points for Han to beat me one time and got 1 point for me. Awesome. Let's talk about the winning team. So Drew wins his way into the playoffs. Unlikely MVP was Courtland Sutton going against Casey Hayward with a rookie quarterback making his first start. I thought that was a matchup I had the advantage in. It turns out Courtland Sutton got 20 points, so he's a stud. After that, Allen Robinson on Thanksgiving had a good day. Eric Reed's been really good for Drew. And Lamar got 23 points, outscored my quarterback by 28. So, all right. So there you have it. I lose. I'm out. Drew wins. He's in. I moved on. I will never move on. So, Graham sitting in a playoff spot, sitting in the number 2 hole, getting the bye week, going against Jason. This was a whitewash for Han. So, Graham's team had some good players. Christian McCaffrey had 10 points. That's good for most people, bad for Christian McCaffrey. So that was kind of a disappointment. James Washington stud again 2 weeks in a row for Graham. Jack Doyle off the waiver wire was good. And Carson Wentz threw down 30 points against Miami. So real good pickup there. But Graham got beat by 37 points. So where are the real studs? Jared Goff, 32 points against Arizona. Really good. Darius Geis just went off. Geis is interesting. Could be interesting. Could be a real good piece going into next year. Alshon Jeffrey, I mentioned in the weekly preview. Alshon Jeffrey was a good play, I thought. 20 points. Devontae Adams, somebody used to have him. He would have been really helpful to me this year. Well, after I traded him. He got real good. 17 points for Adams for Han's team, so great job, Devontae. And Gurley, 17 points. So, and looking down, there's some more guys. Taylor Rapp, Han's boy from the Rams. Yeah, he was really good. He had 12 points, and Corley Littleton had 9. So really good day on the defensive end for those guys. So what did we learn from this matchup? Play your players against Arizona. Bums. Who were the bums? Ronald Jones. Ever since Bruce Arians said Ronald Jones was the starter, he's been garbage. Peyton Barber got 2 touchdowns. Ronald Jones got 8 total yards. He, quote, missed a blitz pickup and got benched. Bums for Han. Griffin underachieved. Christian Kirk, not a great day, but I mean, he put up 147 points or 144 points, so nobody's a bum. They weren't as good as the other guys, but you can do that when you score 144. Highest scorer of the week, on going into the #1 overall pick race on a roll, one in a row. So my bold prediction almost came true. Jason Calder did everything he could to make the playoffs. He beat Danny Wynot by 20 points. This game started out, the quarterback matchup was going to tell the tale of how it was going to look early. And surprisingly to most people in the fantasy industry, Josh Allen doubled Drew Brees. So that was a big one. So let's look at what Calder did. Besides really improving his keepers and improving his team this year, real good plays. Devin Singletary, 16 points. Cam Jordan was a beast against that Atlanta offensive line. He had 14.5 points. Josh Allen, 26 points. And I'm assuming, unless he keeps Devin Singletary, Ezekiel Elliott, new keeper, 14.7 points. So great game for those guys. Over on the Mile High Mania, like I said, Drew Brees underachieved, 13 points, but probably much improved keeper wide receiver for Danny. Cooper Kupp got 12.5. Benny Snell, smart waiver pickup, 12.5 points. Jason Myers, kicker from Seattle, 13 points. So it's not that Danny had a total bum day. Like, he had 90-some points, but Jason put up 113. If it wasn't for Devin's team crap in the bed, my bold prediction would have been true and Jason Calder would have made the playoffs. Instead, some loser commissioner got in. Not bitter, totally bitter. So, I picked me, I picked Graham, and I picked, I might have picked Danny Wynot. 0-for-3. Like I said, ever since I stopped keeping track and just picking for fun, I've been doing real bad. But I've also been picking people who I wanted to who would help get me in the playoffs. Another hotly contested matchup meant nothing, but Dan Evans versus Yip came down. It was a difference of 1.5 points, so 83-82. David Montgomery did really well for Dan Evans, so that's looking good. Kamara, disappointment again. He doesn't have any touchdowns this year, or he's got 1 or 2 or something, but he's probably the reason Dan is in this side of the draft. Kyler Murray had a tough day against the Rams. He only had 12 points, no passing touchdowns. So if I look at Dan's side, no one really did. I mean, Hunter Henry had a real bad day, but everybody was kind of similar. 12, 8, 8. Then Hunter Henry was 1, 7.4, 9, 14.7, 8.5 Blake Martinez. So just no one really went out of their way to do awesome. Over on Yip's team, Leonard Fournette, coming off his 27 points against me, 9.6. But Tampa Bay's got a good rushing defense. So Patrick Mahomes came back a little bit better, 21 points. Will Lutz has been a stud at kicker, another 14-point day. I think that's two big days, 2 big weeks in a row. All you had to do is miss one of those field goals, I'd be in the playoffs. I'm not. I think everything's out to get me. Especially me, making my own decisions. Bums. A few bums on Yip's team. Tyrell Williams against Kansas City, 9 yards. Sammy Watkins, he played. He got 0. The Yip's Marcus Peters last week against me got 10. 2.5. God, so many things. So many things could be different. AJ Brown, 20 points last week, 4.5 this week. I wasn't going to do this. No, I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it. Yip's last 7 weeks. A bunch in the 60s. 2 in the 70s. 120, 83. 120. Whatever, right? Rich had his first day under first game in double digits. Maybe. Might have been 2 in double digits. You'll find out later. Matty Ice took down Rich. Rich's team, Joe Mixon, high score, 13 points. Josh Jacobs, newly acquired Josh Jacobs, 12.4. Good day for Rich. 12 for Darius Leonard at linebacker, so that's good to see. Harrison Butker, 10. But Baker Mayfield, tough day. Dalvin Cook got hurt and they kept him out. He was having a decent day points-wise because he scored a touchdown early. Landry couldn't keep up his hot streak. Kelsey got 9. Tough running for Mark Ingram, 6. So only 88 points. The other thing, I'm pretty sure Jamal Adams got hurt. So he only got 0.5 points for Rich. And Jonathan Allen, Jamal Adams, Jonathan Allen, 1.5. So I think it might have been the first time this year that Rich got outscored on the defensive line. Biggest MVP of this matchup for Matt, it was Matty Ice's Aaron Rodgers. 36 points for Aaron Rodgers, so that was pretty good. Julian Edelman, 16 points against Houston. He threw a touchdown, I'm pretty sure. I might be lying. I am lying. That was the other week. Keenan Allen, 12.8. Jalen Smith, 10. So he didn't get totally outclassed at linebacker. I don't know who Sam Hubbard is for Cincinnati, but he's pretty good at D-line. Who are the bums? Latavius Murray got 2 yards. Bum. But he is Matty Ice's only running back that's worth playing because you can't put David Johnson in. George Kittle, bum. 1.4 yards, or 1.4 points. Yeah, that's basically it from the bums. But he won. So, third place for Matty Ice, tied with Graham. So, because Graham beat Matty Ice, he gets the bye. And the final one, and the reason Jason Calder's not in the playoffs. Derek Bolivar took out the Chub Chub Train. Chub Chub Train tried to take himself out. Not like benching Deshaun Watson bad, but just not performing. So let's look at Derek's team. Who was the MVP? Well, it's the Garbage Man. The Garbage Man. When the game was out of reach, Tom Brady racked up those fantasy points. Attaboy. New England, with that performance, if they can have another stinker before the end of the year, they can probably play that nobody believes in us card and go all the way and win another Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley, good day, 11.5 points, first double-digit day in a long time. DJ Moore, 14.37 points, really good, really good. Austin Eckler, 12.7. Miles Sanders against Miami, everybody knew he was a good play, 16.5. And Derek won and his defense combined for 6 points. Not a great defensive effort, but he beat Devin. Devin's best players, Russell Wilson put up 19.9, which isn't good for Russell, but it's an okay day for quarterback. If Nick Foles would have got 19.9, I would have won. Still bitter. Just checking. DeAndre Hopkins didn't catch a touchdown, but he threw one. So 12.64 points for him. And Mark Andrews, 11 points. So good day there. Bobby Wagner put up 9.5. Yeah, but Devin only scored 79 points. So every team in the league would have beat the Chub Chub Train this week except for one. And it's the one that started Nick Foles. So, Devin, 12-1. Derek's in the playoffs. Picked Devin to win that game. Picked Rich to beat him. Did I go over this week? Nah, I picked Dan Evans. One for... everything about my fantasy week sucked. For the last few weeks, actually. So, there you have it. That's week 13 in a nutshell. Yeah, kept me out of the playoffs. All right, so I'm past it. We're moving on. We're talking about the playoff teams. So let's talk about our number 1 overall seed, the Chub Chub Train. So Devin is averaging 115 points a week, but it's the tale of two halves. So, first half of the season, Devin averaged 132 points. Second half of the season, he averaged 100.17. That's a huge drop off. But he gets a week off. He doesn't have to worry about it. He has to win one game to get into the finals. And once you get in the finals, anything can happen. So how did Devin do in the problem he's got is going in his last three, he's got 89.5. And that is aided by big injuries. He drafted AJ Green, thought he'd have AJ Green by now. AJ Green hasn't come back. Maybe he still will. Now that Andy Dalton's the starter there, maybe he won't. But the big one that's hitting him now is T.Y. Hilton. So what can you do? The other one, it's not, I don't have it written down, but it's Tyler Lockett. So a couple weeks ago, Tyler Lockett spent a couple days in a hospital for a bruise to his thigh. Maybe he's not as well as he should be because he got 0.0. I forgot to mention that he was a huge bum, but he has 0.0 points in his last matchup and not much more than that in his previous one. So since Devin traded for him, he's averaging like 2 points a week. So Devin's starting to line up for the playoffs. As you got, for sure, you got Russell, Nick Chubb, Tyler Lockett, Mark Andrews, solid. DeAndre Hopkins, Aaron Jones, solid. Then you've got a position where he could play Curtis Samuel, Randall Cobb. He could play Matt Breida. Those would be the big three subs for Devin. But he's got to pick one every week. Breida looks to come back this week, maybe. We'll see. Devin's success will be tied to Russ Wilson and Tyler Lockett, though. If they can rekindle some magic, that's big time positive for Devin. I mean, Derek rode Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski all the way to a championship 7 years ago. He still talks about it like it happened yesterday, but it was 7 years ago. What? Sorry, Derek. It's just so easy. Plus, you took my spot. I hate you. He's got the number 2 overall kicker. Back to Devin. Let's focus on Devin. He's got the number 2 overall kicker, Zane Gonzalez, and Arizona won't be playing tough matchups every week. So Zane is good. Number 5 at defensive line, Danielle Hunter. He's good. Kind of a boomer bust sack guy. Number 6 at linebacker, Bobby Wagner. That's probably the lowest he's been in a while. He's doing okay, but not spectacular. But number 6 overall is pretty good. And the number 6 overall DB. So top 6, all defensive categories, and number 2 kicker. So his auxiliary position should be good. The question for Devin is, can he get that part right? He's going to play the winner of who is Devin going to play the winner of? Rich and Drew, I'm pretty sure. So that'll be a tough matchup for all those guys, and I hope that everybody does well and everybody has a good score. All right, second place team, Graham Smith, defending champion Graham Smith, who lost Andrew Luck the day before the draft. I wonder how Graham's fortunes would have been had we had our draft the week previous. Who would he have drafted as a backup? Doesn't matter. We let him keep Matty Ryan, and then he traded for Carson Wentz. So Graham was pretty consistent throughout the year. I don't know if I mentioned it for Devin, but Devin was 5-1 against the other teams in the playoffs, and the only one that beat him was Deke. And for them to play again, they'd have to meet in the finals. So Graham 3-2 against the playoff teams. So he beat the guys in his side. So that's a good one. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. Derek, yes, he beat Derek. And Matty Ice, yep, he beat Matty Ice. That was a heck of a game. 162 to 131. But so he owns wins over those two guys. And he lost to Rich and he lost to Devin. But he was much more consistent than Devin. First half of the season, he averaged 118 points. Second half of the season, he averaged 113. So Graham's team will go the way Christian McCaffrey goes. So let's run down his starting lineup. But let's Let's start at the quarterback. It's going to be Wentz, I'm sure. He's got a great playoff schedule. Then you've got Christian McCaffrey, who is basically two players in one. Michael Thomas, who's, if he's not the number one, he should be. He's the best wide receiver in football this year. He's going to smash Marvin Harrison's catch record. Evan Ingram is Graham's tight end, or Jack Doyle, depending on the injury situation. Marlon Mack. It's great for Graham to get a bye because Marlon Mack is thinking about coming back this week, I hear, but it's questionable, and you don't necessarily want to play him in his first week back, but he's Graham's best flex play, so he gets a bye this week. Marlon Mack will be back for a week, hopefully. Michael Gallup against for Dallas, and then Graham also has a decision. So he's got Ronald Jones, who he could play, who hasn't been good lately. He's got Juju, and he's got James Washington down on his bench. Those, Larry Fitzgerald. Those are his top four flex plays that he could put in that position. Right now, it's a no-brainer James Washington decision. But when Juju comes back from injury, how's it going to look? But James seems to be Duck Hodges' best friend. So Jack Doyle is also a key sub because of Evan Ingram. So Evan Ingram's a great tight end, but he's been injured. So is he going to be back for the playoffs? Is he not? Graham has my kicker, or my favorite kicker, Justin Tucker, number 3 overall this year. He's also got the number 3 defensive lineman, Buckner from San Francisco, the good defensive lineman from San Francisco for fantasy, not Nick Bosa. Number 9 linebacker, Luke Kuechly, who I had and dropped because I was tired of him. I had higher expectations for him, but he's still top 10. He can still put up a big week. And it'll be interesting to see what the Carolina Panthers players do with Ron Rivera getting fired, because they could go gangbusters or they could just give up. And finally, DB, who I thought would be higher in the rankings, but no, 13th overall is Jordan Poyer. So Graham's got some key injuries. I already mentioned Marlon Mack and Evan Ingram. The two guys that are going to really tell you how Graham's going to do are Michael Thomas and CMC. Like I say, CMC, similar to another player we're going to mention in a few teams, basically counts as 2 players. So you could basically get 2 players worth of points every week for Christian McCaffrey. Because if you put them together, he's got Odell Beckham Jr.'s receiving stats, which are great, but still, and Nick Chubb's rushing stats. So that's basically like having the number 1 running back and number 2 wide receiver on Cleveland on your team. So not bad. And like I said, Michael Thomas is a catch machine. So Graham's got as interesting a chance as any to get his name, to get the trophy named after him. Number 3 seed, Matty Ice. The interesting part about Matty Ice's team is he is the 0 RB guy. He's got Latavius Murray back up to Alvin Kamara as his only running back, and he continues to win. He's going in on a 3-game win streak. Beat Hahn twice, and then beat Rich in the final week of the season. So he's going to play Derek in the first round because the other 2 guys have a bye. So he's the first one with the matchup. Not going to preview the matchup just yet because I don't want this video to go for an hour. But Matty Ice is averaging 110, and in the last 3 weeks is averaging 109. So pretty consistent throughout the year. What's interesting about him is he finished 8-5, and he lost 2 games scoring 130 plus points. He lost to Graham, who put up 162, and he lost by 1.5 points to Calder when he put up 137. So interesting fun fact is that he could have been a lot better. He could have been the bye with ease. He also has an interesting quarterback situation. So he has 2 top 5 quarterbacks in Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott. So he gets to play the matchups every week. Key starting running back is Latavius Murray, which is definitely a place you can be taken advantage of. Then you got your Studley wide receiver core. You got Tyreek Hill, Julian Edelman, Keenan Allen, and Chris Godwin. So you've got 4 what I wrote down? 3 top 18 wide receivers, and the other one's Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill would be in that top 8, or top 18 for sure, but he missed a bunch of games, so he's 31st. Kittle, as his tight end, is an advantage over most teams. The only one who in the playoffs who doesn't have an advantage over is Rich with Travis Kelce. So key players off the bench for him. I already mentioned Dak. David Johnson, will he play? Will he not play? Golden Tate and Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller's really coming on strong. But I said he's got the number 1 wide receiver, Chris Godwin, on his team. So hard to fit those other 2 wide receivers in your lineup. Key injuries, the only thing I've got is David Johnson. So what's going on with him? Who knows? He's got the number 5 kicker in Greg the Leg. He's got the number 7. This is the Sam Hubbard I was talking about. Number 7 defensive lineman. Number 4 linebacker, Jalen Smith, who was a waiver wire pickup a couple weeks ago. And number 14 DB, Sean Williams. So good defense, and Jalen Smith can take over a game and get a ton of points. So not bad. Matty Ice, like I said, he faces Derek in the first round. That team's got a pretty rich history of being in the playoffs. I think he's only missed 1 year. There's one other team that's only missed 1 year in the league, so that'd be 2. But that I think is going to be. I'm not going to preview it, but I think that's going to be a closer matchup than the projections are going to show. Yep, I made notes. The next team, going in on a bigger hot streak, 4 victories in a row, and 4 impressive victories in a row, I think. Rich twice, me, and maybe Matty Ice. No, sorry, Yip. But if I know anything, Yip's a juggernaut. He got 120 points against me. So, Drew's team averaged 108 points per game. Not so good against the playoff teams. He really beat up on us bottom dwellers, but he was 2-4 against the playoff teams, which would put him at 6-1 against the rest of us. So, not a great matchup. Those 2 wins, though, came against his opponent. So, Rich and Drew are going to face off for the 3rd time. Can he do to Rich what Rich did to Devin last year? And that's beat him 3 times. So, his starting lineup, fantasy MVP of the season, it's got to be Lamar Jackson. He's on his team. Le'Veon Bell. The Jets have a good schedule. Julio Jones injured last week, but probably plays this week. Ertz battling a hamstring injury, but he suited up last week. He'll probably suit up again, especially in must-win games. Allen Robinson is in his lineup. Cortland Sutton, like I talked about, a really underrated wide receiver this year. And then you've got Sony, who has, for all intents and purposes, sucked this year. But last year in the playoffs, they really leaned on him, and he did awesome. So he's got that potential. His key subs are in James White. So if it's not Sony, maybe it's James White. James White had like 27 points last week or something like that. Tyler Boyd, Andy Dalton back. Tyler Boyd's back in the fold as a potential player, and Robbie Anderson, like that good Jet schedule. So those 3 guys, any one of them could take Sony's spot. He really lacks in the kicker department, but he's got some young guy from Oakland, so maybe he does okay. 26th overall, though, not great. But this is where Drew, besides having the number 1 overall fantasy player, Lamar Jackson, his defense is really top-notch. He's got the number 1 D lineman in Chandler Jones, who just keeps getting it done. He's got the number 1 linebacker in Joe Schobert, who's been a monster for the last few weeks. And he's got the number 3, who's also been a monster for the last few weeks, in Eric Reed for DB. So that's 2 number 1s and a number 3. By far the strongest defense in the playoffs. So if he's going to beat Rich, it's got to be on the backs of Lamar and that defense. Because Rich has a good defense by name. Drew's putting up the stats. Two key players is going to be Lamar. Lamar, like Christian McCaffrey, is two players in one. So he's going to eclipse the 1,000-yard mark for a quarterback rushing. It'll be the first time. He's only 60 yards shy of Mike Vick's record this year. And he also leads the NFL in touchdown passes. So you get your quarterback and you get your running back with Lamar Jackson. The other key I'm going to say is Zach Ertz. They've really been leaning on him. Really been leaning on Zach in these games. I mean, they're not winning them, but they've really been throwing him the ball. So I already talked about the two key injuries there. So right now, I would say that side of that bracket is on paper a lot tougher, even though the 4 and 5 seed versus the 3 and 6. But I would say that game of the week's got to be the third matchup of Drew versus Rich. So let's talk about Rich. Juggernaut scoring team. That's what I have written down. So Rich averaged 122 points a week. Actually 123 if you round up, which was the highest in the league. He's running into the playoffs on 3 straight losses. Normally I'd say that's bad, but in his 3 losses, he's averaging over 108 points. That's good. So that's more points in those 3 losses than Drew averages on the year. Fun fact, he's got 2 times over 160. He's got 1 time over 150. He also knows that Drew beat him last year in the Yahoo final. That's got to light a fire in his belly. Rich wants that trophy. He thinks he's going to win it. I like his confidence. But he was 7 and 6 overall, 3 and 4 against the playoff teams, 4 and 2 against the rest of us. So we all got up to play Rich. So Rich's team not only had the number 1 scoring offense, it also had the people score the most points against him. So that happened to me last year. That happened to Rich this year. That's an interesting trend that the highest scoring team has the highest points against. So Rich had no wins unless he scored at least 110 points. Interesting. Some people called her it a 67-point victory. Deke had a low-scoring victory. I don't know exactly what. Oh, I can find out, though. I have his schedule printed off. Deke won with 74. 74 points. Another thing going against me. Well, I guess that I'm over it. So let's talk back about Rich. He only had 4 games, less than 110 all year, and that was beaten by teams with 119, 107, 121, and 115. So if he scores less than 110, he's 0-4. So we'll see if that trend continues in the playoffs. He starts Baker. Baker Mayfield is his quarterback. Dalvin Cook, who's been a fantasy superstar this year, probably most improved player this year for fantasy. Kenny Golladay, or was Kenny Golladay when he had Matt Stafford throwing the ball, or Driscoll. Driscoll's now on IR, so it's David Blau for the foreseeable future. So whether Golladay is his bench wide receiver or Golladay is his starter, I guess he'll show us this week. Number 1 tight end. Number 1 tight end, Travis Kelce. Underrated pick. First pick of the second round. Most of us, me, thought it was a bad pick. Melvin Ingram, great pick. Joe Mixon's coming on. He is in his flex. And Josh Jacobs. So his lineup is set. And Rich is going to roll out 4 talented running backs, all in the top 16 for points. So really good. There was only one team that had a rival running back crew, and they didn't make the playoffs. So who's he got for key subs? He could put in Tevin Coleman, who's been disappointing ever since his 40-point week, but he could put him in. Jarvis Jarvis would be the other one. Maybe Jarvis is his starting, and he couples Jarvis and Baker. Will Fuller, deep threat for my guy, my bench guy, Deshaun Watson, and Debo. So his only key injury is Jamal Adams, and if he had an injury to his starting lineup, I think he would go off without a hitch, because he's got good depth. He's got the number 1 kicker. He's got the number 23 D lineman in Jonathan Allen, number 14 linebacker, which isn't really fair because we all know Darius Leonard's a great linebacker, but he was hurt, so he's got the number 14 linebacker, and he's got the number 4 DB in Jamal Adams. Question is, will he need another one? So, on paper, Rich's team, to me, it looks like the strongest team. But with everybody scoring lots of points against him, and him having to go against Lamar for a third of the last 4 weeks, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Rich is my pick to win. Overall, pick to win. Yeah, that's right. I just bet against Christian McCaffrey. And I did that because I think Dalvin Cook can cut him off. I probably just signed Rich's death warrant for a first round loss. All right. The team, the little engine that could. The guy who gives up on the season and then wins 2 straight and sneaks in the playoffs. Good job, Derek. Commissioner's team, Brady's bunch. Last time for that name, probably. But maybe not. Maybe Brady wins him another championship and he just refuses to let him go. But here's the stats. Derek averages 95.82 points per game. Not good. That is the... That's me. Third lowest point total of the year. Not good. Not good. Derek started 4-2, then went on a 1-4 streak, then gave up and went 2-0. He's the only team to beat Devin. Like I said, any given Sunday. He doesn't have to score more than 95 points if his opponent doesn't either. So 7 of his 13 weeks were under 95. I haven't been very positive about Derek's team yet, but you need to be careful. You need to be careful about the team that has nothing to lose. So Derek is the 6th seed. He's got to beat Matty Ice, who's got a hole in his lineup at running back. It can be done. Derek's got some good players in his lineup. Let's talk about them. Tom Brady put up 30 points last week. Going against Kansas City. He's going to have to score. So he could win. Saquon Barkley's going against Philly. Last year he crushed the Eagles. DJ Moore. If Deke keeps DJ Moore, and that's fine, he has much upgraded his keeper from last year with Brandon Cooks. DJ Moore is a way better wide receiver. And he's got a big target share. So DJ Moore's going to get his points. Derek's been streaming tight end all year. Jacob Hollister. Did anyone else know that Jacob Hollister had the most targets last week in Seattle? No. You probably didn't. But he did. He only caught 40 yards worth, but they target the tight end, especially in the red zone. So then he traded away Josh Jacobs and he got back Carlos Hyde. So he got back a starting running back. Houston's got a decent matchup this week again for running back. So he could point. Austin Eckler, he's a top 10 running back. Even after Melvin Gordon's come back, he stayed in the top 10. And Miles Sanders. If Jordan Howard's still out, they're going against the Giants. Jordan Howard's going to point. Miles Sanders is going to point because they throw him the ball. His key subs. He's got Jimmy G sitting there. If he doesn't like Brady's matchup, he can go with Jimmy G. So he's got a quarterback question every week. Kareem Hunt. Ever since he's come back from being suspended, he's been good. He's been getting touches. He hasn't been taking points away necessarily from Nick Chubb, but they're working side by side. And he's the third down pass down back guy. Maybe Brandon Cooks gets healthy and LA has another good matchup. Hollywood Brown. If they got to throw, they're going to throw to Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. So that's not bad. Not a bad lineup at all. His kicker is number 15. It's Cleveland's kicker, and Cleveland's got a good schedule in the playoffs. So, number 9 defensive line, Joey Bosa. Not a great ranking for Bosa, but we all know that Bosa can put up 15 with the best of them. He can rush the passer. That's how you get points at D-line. Worst linebacker in the league. Khalil Mack, another pass rusher. He's fine. You want to play him at D-line? Fine. But linebacker, he's not getting any tackles. He's number 43 on the year. There's only 32 teams in the NFL. There are 42 linebackers that you could pick up that are better than Khalil Mack. Playoff time, Derek. Fill those holes. Get that linebacker. Go get someone. There's people on waivers. Hell, blindly close your eyes and pick one. Better linebacker than Khalil Mack for fantasy. I'm not playing. I'm not in the playoffs. I can say whatever I want. Khalil Mack sucks. Number 7 DB. You went out and you got a DB. You went out and you got Minkah Fitzpatrick. Because I had him. I dropped him. You picked him up. So you improved your DB. You forgot you had to play a linebacker. It's okay. I'm telling you. I'm here to help you, Derek. Key injury. Saquon Barkley. Is he 100%? Is he not? He's also with the key duo. Tom Brady or Derek Bulver's quarterback, whether it be Jimmy G or Tom Brady, he needs them to score. He's not. The team is good. He got in the playoffs. He beat Devin. But it's not good enough to pull along a 10-point QB against these teams. But it's good enough to get 20. So if he can keep picking the right guy, and he's been picking the right guy, if he can keep picking the right guy, sneak alert, I think Derek's going to beat Matty Ice. If that happens, if Derek beats Matty Ice, then Derek will play Graham in the semifinal. That means that one person who's won the trophy before will have the chance in the final to get the trophy named after them. And don't we all want that suspense? As long as it's not Derek in the final? Don't we all want that? I think we do. So, there you have the playoff preview. I'll put a challenge out. Playoff teams, you think you're awesome? If my team is the highest scoring team in the league 3 weeks in a row in the playoffs, you name the trophy after me. I put it out there. You man enough to do it, Derek? You man enough to make that decision, take that challenge? Highest scoring team in the league, 3 straight weeks. You name the trophy the tradesman. You know you don't want to name it the Bachman. So, all right, there we have it. Preview coming up later in the week. But this one's a little longer because we did the playoff preview. I hope you enjoyed it. I liked it. Not bitter. Not bitter that I'm out of the playoffs. First time in 7 years. It's like I told Derek today. When you're the best fantasy player in the league, people like to give it to you when you lose. Sometimes you let yourself down. But, you know what? My wife doesn't find me handsome. I can always play fantasy.